My name's Larissa Parson. I'm a movement teacher specializing in core and pelvic floor health. And let's see, I live in North Carolina. I like to hula hoop now. I like to paddleboard. These are all things that are relatively new to my body this year or last year. Um, and I am on a mission to bring more joy and justice into the world by helping people connect to their bodies.
Love that. Yay. So what inspired you? Like, why did you sign up for this chronic pain program?
I was really taken by the combination of curiosity and joy in the way that you approach it. When a lot of, like as a movement teacher, I read a lot of stuff and I study a lot of stuff, and I'm really, following lots of people who talk. I follow some people who talk about pain science, and it's always come across as this very kind of like heady, often lots of white men talking about this stuff in a very jargony way. And I just don't groove with that. Like, that's just not my thing. And so when I heard you talking about it, I was like, oh, now I can understand this in a way that really appeals to me. And like, I can see how this would be really useful, not only in dealing with my own body and its sensations of occasional pain and chronic re-injury, and I can see how this would be the way that you present it and the way that you model exploring it is how I have a lot of clients who have pain. People come to me as a movement teacher because I can help them. Here are some exercises that might help your body feel better, but it's really hard to get to feel better if we're still blocked by chronic pain or emotional discomfort that's restricting how we feel embodied. So that's why I wanted to take this.
So you are also not just being a teacher, you are also a person with a body and a movement practice. Yeah. So on a personal level, tell me a little bit about what the experience has been like for you in terms of even just, right, like you're not just learning it to teach other people.
No.
That you've learned things that you've experienced yourself, because it's an experiential program. It's,
yep.
Even though there's a psychoeducation component of it, which is very important because we cannot understand pain and a new possibility of it without these ideas.
Right.
But then there's the feeling it in your body part. So tell me about that part for you.
So when we started working together, when I started working through the course material, I was at about a year and 9 months out from a pretty intense knee injury, for which I did 6 months of physical therapy and kept working on my own and did a whole bunch of other exercise programs. And I was finding that I periodically would have a flare up of the pain and the symptoms in my knee. I had a story about my knee, which was, if I do this, then it hurts. Or sometimes I accidentally do this and then it hurts. And while I was working through the course material, I discovered that in my own movement practice, I was able to do movements that I had been avoiding and that I had been afraid of, and that I had been just feeling really hesitant about and modifying, and just like not really wanting to try them because I was afraid of pain, basically. And I found that, this whatever it is, this thing that comes up with my knee, this not really chronic, but kind of recurring occasional pain in my knee. Even when I've had little moments where it flares up since we started the course, I can get back to doing the movements I want to do the same day, as opposed to 2 days later or the next day or whatever. Even if the pain is very intense in the moment, I just sit with it, I notice it, and there it is. I tune into the sensation, maybe do like a little gentle somatic tracking with it. And then I ask myself later, do I want to exercise? How does that feel? And then sometimes it feels really, really good. And that's really been a tremendous gift to my body. And then there have also been a couple other places where I've had more kind of chronic ongoing discomfort, where practicing, again, probably somatic trucking, but practicing just reading and thinking and learning all of this stuff has made a difference in my experience of those areas of discomfort. It's made a difference in, instead of thinking, oh, I need to go do this, 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 and this, because I can jump right into a list of things I can do to make it stop or make it change, because that's what I do. Being able to stop trying to fix it all the time and just notice it has been a tremendous gift in terms of feeling more at home in my body even than I was before.
What was your experience like going through this material?
I found the material to be really easy to manage, and that's saying a lot considering that I'm, running my own business, seeing clients, parenting two now 10-year-olds in a pandemic with no childcare. Getting through online courses is always really, really hard for me, especially when there isn't a whole lot of, especially if there is not a whole lot of like actual interaction. And that's one of the things that I really love about this course, was that it wasn't just go do this stuff on your own and read this stuff and listen to this stuff and do these videos, but it was really like, go to just this stuff and then let's talk it through so that you really have a deeper understanding of the material. And I found that the material was broken up into such nice small chunks that I could put on my headset and listen to a little while I was cooking dinner, or take 10 minutes and sit down and do an exercise, or folding laundry. I went through a lot of the material while folding laundry because it was like I could still watch and listen and kind of be present to the moment, while also getting household tasks done. And I find that a lot of online courses don't necessarily allow for that, including some of the ones that we've taken where, like I don't necessarily have an hour to block out to do an exercise video right now in these conditions. So I really appreciated the way things were broken up.
What I think is funny is that even when I created this course, I thought that I would be doing more movement with people, and I haven't been. Occasionally I'll get on the floor, I'll teach somebody a few things with like a foam roller, just kind of like helping them shift or create some opening in terms of like being able to attend to the sensations in their bodies. But I honestly thought that I would be doing a lot more movement teaching, and that's not where this program is at this moment, and it may evolve into like having this other piece. So I think why I mentioned that is I think it's so interesting that we can affect such drastic physical change without applying like a physical technique.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't think have we done a single physical thing together? I think mostly I just get on and then cry.
Physical thing.
It's totally a physical thing. Totally feeling the feelings in my body. Like that's what I feel like that has been one of the most surprising things, is just like really having the way that you create a sense of safety for me to feel all of the feelings that are coming up as I'm experiencing them and talking about them and talking about this embodied experience, or talking about even just like, I can't believe that I did that thing and it didn't hurt, like all of those things. It's been really phenomenal to have space held in that way, and to have your thoughtful support and really gentle, but also very clear guidance. Like when you're telling a story, Dad's going to call you out on that. Right? In like the kindest possible way. And I love that. I love that like you're so good at listening to what someone has to say, and then seeing where we're still like falling into the pattern that we are really familiar with, when we're shaking up the pattern. We're trying to like make a shift in the way that we're going to talk about our bodies, make a shift in the way that we're going to talk about this experience of being human in a body with feelings and stuff. And you do that in such a kind way that also really sticks. Like it just gives me a lot to think about between sessions as well.
And I want to bring it back, especially with you, to that this is biology. Creating safety with our emotions changes our physical experience of and like interpretation of what is really like a neutral nociceptive input. And nociception just means kind of like changes in pressure, temperature, and chemicals, right? So this is why the coaching part is important, right? Because we
100%.
through dialogue, right? Why the biology of the nervous system, and I think like everything people are learning about polyvagal theory, like, we have all these aha moments, is that the nervous system is not psychology, right? Like
Right.
there's this weird disconnect in this country, and maybe, I don't know, wherever, places, where mental health and physical health are like seen as separate things, but they're not. And that sensations and thoughts and feelings all interplay with the nervous system. The nervous system is the body.
Yep.
Right. And so in the first week, I showed like how, our autonomic nervous system connects to all the organs and and it's in this like cute little 2-minute animated video, because we don't actually have to become neurobiologists to understand how this works. And then I lead people through the experience of it, because it's one thing to understand it intellectually, but then if you're still just having sensations and reacting to them, that's the part that we get to do one-on-one.
From a professional perspective, really, like, oh, this is what my magic is in my work. Like, let's take all of that and make space for your human experience and your emotional experience in your body, in addition to just like your muscle. Like, they aren't separate. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, that the physical experience and the human emotional experience are not separate. That's what you just said. but like, it was really powerful to think and feel it in my body. Like, oh, having a session with you, talking about something complicated and mind-blowing, feeling how that the effect of working on this in my own body has been amazing. And noticing also that this is something that works really, that like, this is why people come to work with me, is because that's something that I also like to do and play with. And I don't know, like, you can edit that out. But like, I have to tell you this insight.
Right. I mean, right? This is you're the one driving your program, right?
Yeah.
I'm not here telling you what you're supposed to get out of it.
And that's really amazing. I think that a lot of the time we jump into some sort of online course and we're like, I am going to learn this, this, and this. Here are the learning objectives, and they're laid out for me, and this is what I'm going to get out of it. And this is what, this is how it happens. And it's very linear and it's very top down. And this feels like, wow, here's a whole bunch of interesting information broken down into digestible bites. It's like you're at the sushi bar and and the boats are coming around and you're like, ooh, I want some of that. And I get a little bit of this. Oh, and I get a little of this too. Oh, that's really interesting. Oh, my mind is blown by how delicious that is. That is some wasabi in there. You get this whole little smorgasbord. And then you're like the sushi chef who's like, what else might be interesting for you? Not for that person over there, but for you as an individual human. And it's amazing.
So you probably also hear from your clients what their medical providers have told them about what is happening on the inside of their body. So I just want to get your take, because in my program, I talk about like the nocebo of language, right? I talk about, and we do a lot of playing with language, because what we're trying to do is get a different belief like into the body about what's happening. So maybe share with me either stuff you're going to take to your work from this, or just what you've noticed with your clients in terms of what they bring into the room.
There's a wide range of experiences that come into the room, from people whose pain has been disregarded by their medical providers because they're told things like, if you just lose weight, you will feel better. They're told, or there are times when they feel like they haven't they feel pretty good in some ways, but there's something that's always kind of nagging. I get a lot of I always have this weird thing in my hip or whatever. And sometimes they've seen medical providers about it, or sometimes they've done physical therapy about something and they just haven't quite been able to complete whatever it is, or they've done it and they still don't feel good. And what I see a lot of and hear from my clients, and that I think has gotten even better and more clear while I've taken this course with you, is that people just want to be heard and listened to and and validated. And when we start validating the experience of being in your body starts to actually feel better. It's not like I have a magic potion I'm pouring through the Zoom screen. But every time that I've played around with something like somatic tracking, I had a client the other day, we did somatic tracking, and she was like, I don't feel anything, where she was used to scanning for pain. And then I was like, well, scan for not pain. And so changing my language and looking for things like, let's scan for not pain. Let's look for sensation. Let's change. So that's some of the stuff that's come in, more recently, is I've always talked about sensation, but to really kind of refine how we talk about those experiences and those sensations has been amazing, because people are able to say, I'm not feeling that thing that is always a thing.
I love what you just said, which was asking them to scan for no pain, right?
Or not pain. We said, I wrote down not pain, but yeah, what are we looking for? When we're looking at our body, when we're thinking about our bodies, what are we looking for? Why are we, right? Isn't that week 1 where we talk about just kind of always looking for danger signs?
Yep.
Right? And what if we just didn't, and we looked for the not danger signs and then took that into our scanning our bodies? It's such a fun tool. It's such a fun tool to say, or not even tool, just it feels like a toy, right? It's it's not a tool. It's more like, oh, that's interesting that one hip feels more of this or that than the other. How does the other one feel? What does it feel like when that other one is doing stuff? And then can you see if you can feel that on the other side too? Is really an interesting place to play with how our mind body is working.
One of the things that you just said was so important. In pain, it is very normal, right? It makes a lot of sense to always be on alert for because we don't want to be in more pain, or we're trying to manage the pain that we're having, right? And pain really is a felt experience in your body. It's not made up. The experience of scanning is what trains our brain to pay attention to what it's supposed to pay attention to and make that very important.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting and still mind-blowing to me that is what turns the volume up or down in terms of our pain experience.
Yeah.
How has that been in terms of integration for you, in terms of your commitment to the tools that you use to help people, and your relationship to your work and kind of integrating this?
I'd say it's still evolving right now, but I feel like a lot of my movement sessions have got more talky. They've gotten much more talky. There's a lot more, there's a lot more pep talk for the nervous system, right? In my movement sessions now. A lot of my homework now has been more like, go write about what it might feel like if this pain wasn't happening. It's been kind of more like, let's like play with some of these ideas a little bit, do some somatic tracking, that kind of thing. At the same time as like, if I am trying to help their core muscles get stronger and more coordinated, then they still have exercises that are going to reinforce the new pattern that we want to establish. So doing the nervous system brain work is part of helping reestablish a new pattern or establish a new pattern. And it's part of just breaking down the other pattern that we don't necessarily want, or that we want available to us, but we want to have more options. And I'm really I've been working on my language around this a lot in the last couple of years, really, that what I'm teaching people is, here are some different ways you can move so that your body has more options for everything. And that combined with, let's take a minute and do some scanning for not pain. Let's try this. Really, I think gives people this felt sense of, for some reason, the phrase somatic safety is coming to mind, but like we're giving their nervous system a chance to say that these exercises are okay for you to try. These are okay for you to play with. It's okay, like that sense that your body is safe and that your mind understands that it's safe. It's like, none of these words are adequate. I'm just gonna say, so it's this felt sense of safety gives people the freedom to play with trying different patterns on for size. Yeah. And then those patterns, we reinforce the ones that seem to be creating more possibilities for movement and play and joy and doing the things you want to do in your body. And so having more toys to play with gives us makes it easier to get there.
How do we create safety for our clients who are impacted by multiple experiences in the world that are unsafe for them?
I think that validation, consent, checking in, and then there's another thing that was popping into my head. Oh, right, like I can't give anybody agency, but I can affirm their agency. And that's important too, that, right, like, how does this work for you? How does it feel? Like that kind of, you're in charge of your own experience of being in your body. I can give you all of the things I know, but ultimately you're in charge of that experience and you're in charge of what we do together. Like it's not a, I think a lot of systems, or a lot of people want to come across as more authoritative, like, here's the only way you can do this. This is how you fix this. This is the solution to the problem, right? This is how we do this. And making a space safe for people means you have to let go of a little bit of that and or actually a whole lot of that, like most of it. You have to be open to adjusting your approach, and that's fine. And the idea, I feel like there's also the idea that for the idea of nociception as just kind of that perception of sensation, as opposed to a nocebo, right? Like that was interesting, because I feel like getting that language more clear was really useful. I don't know, that's kind of a ramble. Like in my head, it makes sense.
What it means for one person to be in pain is a different experience for somebody else to be in pain.
Absolutely.
The access to resources, the support systems that they have, the communities that they live in, even if you can take off time from work, like all of these things that, you know, go into the experience of pain, and nociception as a pain signal from the body doesn't leave any room for that, those other elements that go into the interpretation around sensations. So,
I mean, I think especially when you say the biopsychosocial aspects of it, the cultural conditioning that we have vis-a-vis pain and how we're supposed to react to it, the ways that we're supposed to seek help for it, the ways that or not, the ways that we know we won't get helped if we do seek help for it, the ways that we'll get labeled if we go to different places for help, you know, like all of those things affect the way that we interpret that signal. And we do it so fast, you know?
I was like, oh, here I am, also a person in a larger body who has pain. And I have all of my stories about being in pain, besides the physical experience of being in pain, and all the stories I have about then being an educator and a helper and a teacher, being in pain, and all of these things, which then led me to this work. And then I was like, what? Yeah. And then, you know, to me, radically changing my knee pain overnight because I learned a new idea didn't make any sense to the like body worker issues in the tissues person and all of that biomechanics training and all of that work. And it unearthed a lot of thoughts I had about myself. And, you know, they're not like awesome thoughts I had about myself. You know?
I would say that is also true of my experience working through this material with you, and I don't think you would disagree.
So it's taken me kind of a long time, but also, so then doing this process of like noticing, right? Because a lot of this is about making room, separating the reaction from the awareness.
Yes.
And becoming aware of our reactions.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
And how the reaction becomes the kind of fit, like seeing the somatic experience, like feeling the somatic experience of reacting to these thoughts that flow by our brains. That we also just think of ours as like mental health or something else, or trauma, or that stupid shit that my mother said to me 30 years ago that's like still lodged somewhere in my head. So it all comes together. And so, this piece about me, like I am vulnerable on the internet on purpose and allow to see and experience my process. And also, when I see that I want to hide, now my curiosity is like turned on. And it's like, I don't see that impulse as shameful anymore. No. And that's what I love, because I'm literally, that is neural reprocessing. I'm rewriting my habitual patterns to now have curiosity instead of shame.
Yeah. Oh my God. Could we just replace shame with curiosity everywhere? Like, wouldn't that, I'm I'm just sitting here thinking about pelvic floors for one, but you know, like, because that's my thing. But could we just replace so much shame with curiosity, like on so many levels and so many different contexts? I would so much rather be curious than feel shame. I would so much, like, it's just so much more, it leads to a more joyful embodied experience. It leads to, but it's also, you know, it's, our culture is wired toward shame. And so for us to make a better culture, we have to rewire it from ourselves.
And I often now talk about peace instead of safety.
I like that.
I don't know why, but that seems to be working for me as a word, because peace, if I think about like my nervous system, I want to calm its like reactivity, right? To anything that it perceives as negative, even if it's that I have felt shame or that whatever it is, then yeah, like the awareness, like being peace in the awareness, right? Like instead of, right? Because sometimes as we're going, like if you're going through a growth process, sometimes it makes a lot of sense to be rejecting of what you're trying to grow away from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this is that next level of like making it a more peaceful, embodied experience of growth, which then changes our pain experience.
Yes. A more peaceful. So I just listening to you riff on peace and safety, I keep thinking, the thing that is tricky about safety is that we associate safety with danger and in opposition to danger. And there's absolutely danger in life. There's absolutely danger in being in a body that society marginalizes, right? In many myriad ways, we can all be marginalized. But if we look at like you were saying, if we look at it as finding peace with the process of experiencing things, that feels really good when I hear that. It makes me feel, I feel like peace and curiosity go hand in hand for me, but curiosity for me is a very peaceful thing. It's not like, I gotta dig, it's not like that. It's not a tunneling kind of curiosity. It's kind of like cool, that's curious. But that might not be everybody,
I think I needed to add in peace because I can get very obsessive.
Yeah.
And I find learning very pleasurable, but then I want to immerse myself, and then it has its own intensity quality, like obsessive quality, that I finally noticed is kind of also a part of my like self-rejection story in some way. So it's like anything, that's kind of why I always have people check in with language in their own body, because my language doesn't necessarily resonate. Like some people love the word surrender. I really do not, it doesn't work for me. And maybe at some point it will, but I like to, talk about like inviting and welcoming
and love and invitation. Yes.
And like that.
Yeah.
But I think that somebody could claim that the word surrender would kind of have the same meaning. And I'm just like, the idea of surrender makes me want to be like, fuck you, like immediately rebellious.
So I actually find for like listening to you talk about peace, I'm like, cool, I love peace. But listening to other people talk about peace, I'm like, fuck you. So it just depends on the context and what's the intention and what's going on. I mean, I think that's the cool thing about having a lot of people learn this stuff and start to bring it into the world, is that we're all going to say it in our own ways, and some of it's going to resonate and some of it's not going to resonate. And as long as we're speaking the truth, come on, right? But like, as long as we are sharing this biological information, as long as we are sharing this way of playing with being embodied, and feeling the feelings, then some of our words are going to hit home for the right people in the right way. And it's going to blow their minds and change their worlds. And for some people, maybe somebody else's words are going to do that. That's fine.
Yeah. I think that's a great place to leave it. I think you're awesome. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I really, really appreciate it.
I think you are awesome. I'm so grateful to be doing this with you. And I'm like, I want all of my learning experiences to be like this. So
Sounds good. I mean, I don't know. I think it comes from really being intolerant, like unable to learn in a lot of environments. Not unable, but like having a lot of difficulty. I have a lot of difficulty in a lot of environments.
Yeah.
I'm not a good classroom student, even though I got a master's degree, like whatever. So, but there's a way, I think this is that whole part of it is like I've stopped trying to be somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait, the way that I'm sharing this is really helping people. That's awesome. Looking into the future, thinking I have something that I want to share. And I kept thinking I needed to be somebody else, do something else, know more things, know how to be a teacher, know all these things. And I finally just like, that is so, there's so much suffering wrapped up in that for me that I literally would just like, I like could feel it in my body. I mean, like that was a lot of my anxiety experiences were also my like embodied anxiety experiences were very intense because of that. And then I was like, what if I just do it the way I'm going to do it? And then that is good enough.
Yeah.
And that permission that I gave myself changed my entire embodied experience. And that's kind of where now that's kind of what informs everything. I was like, I went through the work of being the program and then making it in the way that was going to work for me. And there may be people who would be like, I mean, there's also, I'm not the only person teaching this. Like I come from a lineage and, you know, there's a lot of different people who are getting to share it. So I'm excited to now feel like, oh, I have not only have permission from them, but I am giving myself permission to then just kind of work in the way that I work. And I think
I
it
feel
will.
like, yeah, it's wonderful. I feel like giving yourself permission is a lot of the heart of some of this also. You have permission to feel, you have
Yeah.
permission to move, you have permission to exist, you have permission to want to change things.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time we don't give ourselves that permission. You have permission to share what you know.